ojos de papel volando, negrita de mis pesares, ojos de papel volando, a todos diles que sí, pero no les digas cuando así me dijiste a mí, por eso vivo penando. Cuando me traes a mi negra, que la quiero ver aquí, con su rebozo de seda que le traje de Tepic. Cuando me traes a mi negra, que la quiero ver aquí, con su rebozo de seda que le traje de Tepic. eso vivo esperando. Cuando me traes a mi negra, que la quiero ver aquí, con su rebozo de seda que le traje de Tepic. Cuando me traes a mi negra, que la quiero ver aquí, con su rebozo de seda que le traje de Tepic.
Welcome downtown Yakima Rotary, and welcome to all of our guests who have joined us today for a great program and some great entertainment. I want to thank Randy Beeler for being our greeter today, and he soloed. He did it all by himself. Did a good job. Right now, one other thing, a Rotary bracelet was found, I think maybe last meeting. Lisa Krause is wearing it. It's just studded with diamonds and jewels, so anyone who thinks they lost it, it'll be modeled by Lisa right back here somewhere. Anyway, no further ado, I'd like to introduce Peter Finch, West Valley School District Superintendent, who will introduce our music.
Hi everyone, I'm Peter Finch, Superintendent for the West Valley School District. We're really proud that today when we have our time for music, we will have music and dance. So our dancers can come in here. I'm not sure if you know that Vanessa Ontiveros with the Yakima Herald Republic does some amazing work with podcasts. So you may have seen an article in the paper about ballet folklorico, so folk dancing from Mexico, but she also has a podcast. So when you think about today and giving these kids a high five, it's the Yakima Arts Talk, episode 5. So episode 5 is what you want to search for when you're looking for your podcast. It's very professionally done, and one of our dancers here is featured in the podcast. So one of the dancers, Evelyn Severino, is here. Wave, Evelyn, give them a high five, yes. Some of you may know Evelyn already because she danced on the stage of the Capitol Theater with the Yakima Symphony Orchestra and the Villalobos Brothers at their concert last spring. And that was done because the Villalobos Brothers said, we would like to have a dancer. And people made calls and they found out that Evelyn Severino could dance for them. So she was whisked up to the stage for a quick dress rehearsal, and then she performed for our Yakima audience. So Evelyn, yeah, give her a hand. Now, I'm proud of all of our students here from West Valley. I got to brag on Evelyn, though, because she is a student at our West Valley Innovation Center in the computer science pathway, and she was one of the STEM all-stars, STEM rising stars. So STEM is science, technology, engineering, math. So Evelyn is a person of many talents, so she has the arts and the science, and we're looking forward to bright things from her and from all of our students here. So just wanted to share that I have a little secret that we have Hispanic Heritage Month, and we were asked, say, can your ballet folklorico from West Valley, could they dance in September for Hispanic Heritage Month? And we said, September, we have a lot of new students. Could we maybe go to October? You know, it branches September to October. And they said, yes, that would be fine. So here we are in October, kind of finalizing our celebration of Hispanic Heritage Month, but we know we are always celebrating our cultures here in the Yakima Valley. We wanted to share with you that the Ballet Folklorico, our students from West Valley Mid-Level Campus and our Innovation Center, these are students that volunteer their time and they want to get together. And it's so fun. We've often asked the students to share why they have joined. And it's wonderful hearing their answers because there are many different answers. Some say, I like the music. Some say, I like the dance. Some say, I like to learn about my parents' culture. Some I like to keep the culture alive. Others have said they like the exercise. So these are all good reasons to join. All students are welcome. Really appreciate Minerva Pardo as our advisor for the group when they meet after school. And always, yes, thank you, Minerva. And I think the wonderful thing about dance is that, and the arts, is that they enrich all of our lives. So today we are all part of this experience because they're sharing this gift of the Ballet Folklorico with us, but we are also participating. It's an inspiration and an enrichment of all of our lives to have the arts. So with that, I'd like to give a warm Rotary welcome to the West Valley Ballet Folklorico.
Thank you so much. Wasn't that fabulous? So I am doing the invocation today. So with Ali and Asha here, I wanted to share a poem excuse me, I came across from a writer. Her name's Erin Hansen. She published this poem a couple of years ago. It is both beautiful and sort of haunting at the same time. It goes like this. She has a bookshelf for a heart, and ink runs through her veins. She'll write you into her story with a typewriter in her brain. Her bookshelf's getting crowded with all the stories that she's penned, of the people who flick through her pages but close the book before the end. And there's one pushed to the very back that sits collecting dust, with its title in her finest writing, The One Who Lost My Trust. There are books she's scared to open and books she doesn't close, stories of every person she's met stretched out in endless rows. Some people have only a sentence, while others once held a main part, thousands of inky footprints that they've left across her heart. You might wonder why she does this. Why write of people she once knew? She hopes one day she'll mean enough for someone to write about her too. If you so choose, please pray with me. Lord, we thank you for the writers that help us taste words we read, for opening our eyes to imagine, and the emotions that enable us to taste joy, enthusiasm, peace, even helplessness, anger, sadness, and indifference, all from the words they write. We thank you for this gathering today, the food we consume, the guests that are present, our speakers, the dancers, the beautiful conversations, the exchange views, smiles, words of encouragement to each other. Especially we thank you for always being able to learn new things and grow further together. In your service, amen.
At this time, Brad would like to present a blue badge to new member Wendy Hensley. Oh, not a new member, excuse me, just a badge. Hold on just a second. New member, Bobby Carey. I am so sorry. I would like to, is Wendy Hensley here? Oh, that saved me. Brad, you up?
President Rick, I've been asked to do lots of things for Rotary this week. I'm glad that wasn't actually one of them at the last minute. Thank you. Fellow Rotarians, President Rick, guests, I'm here to introduce a new member, Bobby Carey. Bobby was born in Northern California and moved to Yakima in 1994. As a child, she spent every year traveling back to California to spend time with her family. She went to East Valley High School and continued her education at Yakima Valley Community College and at Southern New Hampshire University. I bet you we have if there's a Southern New Hampshire University alumni here, please raise your hand. Okay, just making sure. She worked towards a business administration degree. She then worked at Memorial Hospital for just under 7 years and later became a stay-at-home mom. Once her son, Preston, who's now 7, started school, she returned to the workforce. Her main interest was working with people in the real estate industry. She became an assistant for a local lending company and later obtained her mortgage loan officer license and joined the team at Homebridge Financial with Rodney Hot Rod Pignon, if you don't know him, and Summer Pineda. She truly enjoys helping everyone achieve their dream of owning a home. As I mentioned, she has a 7-year-old son, and when she's not working, she enjoys spending time with him. And you may also find her on a dirt bike occasionally. It's my honor to introduce, and please give a warm Rotary welcome to our newest Rotarian, Bobby Carey.
think one thing we're going to have to do is minimize the things we hand out, because I've never been a very good juggler. All right, Bobby. I have the right name, the right person. I have the right instruments here. I'd like to give you a red badge, your first badge for Rotary, and a plaque for your wall, any wall at home, at the office, anywhere you'd like to display it. The coveted, well, no, that's later. This also is coveted. This is the blue roster book with all the Rotary members in it so that you can look up those you don't know and be able to find them. And then last of all, the coveted Rotary license plate holder, which you can place on your car.
Thank you.
And I want to say thank you to Rotary, and probably maybe one of the most memorable introductions that I've been part of, so thank you. Okay. Sonia Rodriguez, okay, is going to introduce another new member, hopefully a little smoother this time.
Come on up. All right, okay. Well, I am honored to present Jessica Humphreys as our newest member. And she is our Yakima County Superior Court Director. Her office is on the 3rd floor of our courthouse, and often when you walk by there, you can probably find one of us judges in there. Maybe getting some free advice or just having Jessica be a soundboard, but Jessica has an extremely important job. She helps runs our court, and she's in charge of the budget, and she has several other various responsibilities that help us provide the service we do to the community. So let me tell you a little bit about Jessica. She was born right here in the Yakima Valley at Memorial Hospital in 1975, and she grew up in the North Fork of the Attanum Valley, spending many happy years horseback riding, fishing in the creeks and ponds on the family land, and camping in the mountains. She attended West Valley schools and graduated from West Valley High School in 1993. Jessica grew up surrounded by a large extended family of aunts, uncles, and cousins working cattle and living on a small farm. Living out in the Tampico area in a small farming community meant that you helped your neighbors and everyone knew each other. When your aunt drove the school bus and your grandmother was a Sunday school teacher, there wasn't a lot of trouble you could get into without everyone knowing about it. Her father was a logger and later a mechanic for Clayson Fruit, and her mother was an artist who owned and operated the glass kaleidoscope for over 30 years in Yakima. Her parents' strong work ethic and sense of community was instilled in Jessica at a very young age. She saw early on how important it was to work hard and contribute to the community by giving what you could do to help a neighbor in trouble or someone who needed a helping hand. Her family taught her that it was something that you just did because it was the right thing to do. Jessica worked several jobs to put herself through community college at YBC and then a year at Wazoo. I won't hold that against her. Go Huskies. She took time off to get married and began working at Yakima County in the clerk's office. She worked her way up the ranks for 15 years, and during her time in the clerk's office, she put herself through school, obtained her bachelor's degree and master's degree, along with earning a certified public official and court manager certification, all while raising 2 small boys on her own. She then switched careers, moving to Superior Court, and over the next 3 years, Jessica held various jobs, learning as much as possible about the courts until she applied and earned the title of Superior Court Director in 2018, where she is today. Jessica is remarried to Stephen, who is from Scotland. I would have done a Scottish accent here, but I can't do it. And they and their 2 boys, Ryder and Gemini, live in West Valley. Stephen works at Ray's on 56 and Summit View in the produce section, so the next time you're in, stop in and say hi. He is the one with the accent. Ryder's 18 and is working for Yakima County Public Services, was as a summer job, and Jonah is 14 and attends Riverside Christian. Jessica loves to travel, hike, camp, attempt to paint with watercolors, and she refinishes old furniture in her spare time. And Judge Tooch also wanted me to say that she recently adopted a homeless cat. So she's got a very huge heart. And so please welcome Jessica Humphreys.
Okay, I'm holding this firmly in my hand. Okay, Jessica, first of all, I'd like to present you with the red badge, your first badge for Rotary. Plaque on your whatever wall you want to put it on. The roster with all the names of the Rotary members. And then a little card here, the object of Rotary. And, of course, you heard me say it before, the coveted Rotary license plate holder. All right, welcome to the club. Nice to have you. I'd like to do something very quickly. This is kind of like a Rotary speed interview. It's going to be very quick. The subject is, at your table, count the number of people who have registered for the auction on November 19th. And the table that has the most registrants will be fine-free during Sergeant of Arms, which is coming up next. So 1 minute, find out how many at your table are registered, and we'll call it out in just a minute. Really shouldn't take a minute to figure this out, so I'm going to cut it down. What table has 8 registrants? Any table have everybody at the table registered? Well, you have 4 people at your table, okay. So you have 4. Anybody have 5? Okay, 2 tables of 5. How about 6? All right, the 2 tables with 5, you are fine-free for Sergeant of Arms. Sorry, Brad. We're going to have to work harder to make up for the difference. Okay, I think that means that Brad Hansen is going to do our Sergeant of Arms.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's been a long time since I've been on the podium, and I've never been in the Sergeant at Arms Committee. So it took me like 8 weeks to realize I was supposed to stand up and do what John Cooper's doing, like take people's money. So now I get to make you give your money, which is even better. It gets better for me. I was supposed to be on November 3rd. Mike Como calls me and says, hey, I got to be gone. Can we trade dates? I said, sure. What's the program? And he said, humor through storytelling. And I went, if you know me at all, dad jokes abound, and I love a good story. So, we're going to do this in the guise of a story, and forgive me, Jessica, I had absolutely no idea your husband was Scottish before I came up with this topic. So, we're going to talk about Hugh McTavish, and before I tell you the story of Hugh McTavish, if you know of Hugh, and you ruin this, it's a $100 fine. And I will call you out. So Hugh is a Scotsman. He's about 6'4", which leads me to my first fine. If you have any European heritage, please pay $1. So Hugh, 6'4" Scotsman, actually the local florist in his town. So again, second fine, if you're in the service industry, pay $1. So you had this flower shop in this small town, and up on the hill in Scotland is this monastery run by monks. They were notoriously well known for their beer. All right, third fine. If you're in the ag industry, pay $1. If you're in the hop industry, pay $2. because these monks ran out of hops one year. So they went into the flower business. Fine for, if you've had a career change in the last 5 years, pay $1. So anyways, they go into this business and they darn near put Hugh McTavish out of work. So he goes up and he does a thing no one would want us to do, but if you're in the emergency services industry, pay $1, because he burns that monastery to the ground. Now the moral of my story today is that only Hugh can prevent florist fires. And that's my sergeant at arms for the day, Rick. Yeah, and I'm going to pay $20 for how bad my jokes are and all of you having to put up with them. So here we go, John.
Well, Brad, sometimes bad jokes raise a lot of money, so well done. At this time, I am going to introduce Jennifer Bleesner, who will introduce our speakers today. I just want to say, look at Jennifer's shoes.
You can notice my shoes too.
All right. Well, hello, fellow Rotarians and guests. It's my pleasure to introduce you today to Allie Frank and Asha Yeomans. First, Allie. I couldn't start this introduction without mentioning that she's the daughter of her fellow Rotarian Bunker Frank and husband Larry. They're out there beaming with pride about their daughter's wonderful work. She was raised here in Yakima as an only child. She credits her parents for instilling her work ethic, her resiliency, and a little dash of Jewish chutzpah. She left Yakima to work in education for over 20 years in San Francisco and Seattle, moving from public school to a prestigious private girls' school. She's a graduate of Cornell and Stanford and lives in Ketchum with her husband, 2 daughters, and a cute little dog named Georgia. Next is Asha. Asha, along with her sister and brother, were raised in Seattle, the daughter of an educational and civil rights pioneer father and a children's hospital administrator mother. As a child, she was among the first wave of girls to integrate Little League, and then she was enrolled in gifted programs in public school, going on to graduate from one of America's premier private academies, Lakeside School, from which her father had earned a diploma as the school's first black graduate. She graduated from the University of California, Berkeley, and then returned to Seattle, where she taught in public and private schools for 20 years. In her bio, she says that she and her white husband have 2 ethnically ambiguous sons and a dog who's part Yorkie and part who the heck knows what. The 2 of them met when they were both working at the Birchley School, a pre-K through 5 independent school in Seattle. They formed a wonderful friendship that ultimately led them to write not 1, but now 2 books together, and apparently a 3rd coming soon, to become one of the only black and white co-authors in the history of publishing. Their first book, Tiny Imperfections, debuted in May of 2020. Tiny Imperfections is the story of a former black fashion model who is the director of admissions at an esteemed, primarily white private school in San Francisco. It was published in May 2020 in the middle of you-know-what. Despite launching during that time, Tiny Imperfections received several awards from Good Housekeeping, Good Morning America, and the New York Post, just to name a few. Their second book, Never Meant to Meet You, is the story of 2 women who did not intend to become friends. Marjette Lewis is a black Southern Baptist kindergarten teacher, and Noah Abrams is white, Jewish, and a very successful book editor. On the surface, it wouldn't seem these 2 women have much in common. Never Meant to Meet You just launched October 1st and has already been awarded as Good Morning America's one of the top 15 books to make you think and feel. Please give a warm Rotary welcome to Asha and to Allie. Ladies, oh. Check 1, 2, check. Guess what?
Let's see, yeah.
Yep. Learn how to pivot. We've done that a little bit. I'll start with that. Pivoting, launching a book in 2020, when, I don't know, there's something going on, and I think we've all remember what was happening. How did that help or hurt the launch of Tiny Imperfections?
Well, personally, we launched into the pandemic with one of the big 5 publishers, with Penguin Random House, one of their imprints, G.P. Putnam and Sons. And we had a travel coordinator that booked us coast-to-coast flights. We had book meetings and signings scheduled. They even made our hotel reservations. We bought new clothes. Those clothes are still hanging in my closet. And now after COVID, none of them fit. So that was one big way that, a big change of our launch.
I'm laughing because there was so much expectation behind our first book, because it's the first of anything. You have grandiose expectations in the most normal of times, and then when COVID hit, it was so much pivoting that had to happen. But the part that was really interesting is it was COVID, but it was also May of 2020, and it was a social reckoning. And we were a black and white co-authorship who was writing about race and class and privilege and parenting, and that was the conversation that was going on in the world and starting to explode in the world. So the part that I think really was the positive for us is that as bookstores and publishers were putting out lists of books for people to read, Ash and I noticed that there were many phenomenal books on those lists, but the majority of them were nonfiction, and the majority of them really focused on learning about different races and cultures and religion through exploring their trauma and through exploring their drama, as if the only way that you could really have a depth of knowledge about the black experience, about a brown experience, about a Muslim experience, is if you understood that group at their most difficult time. And there wasn't much exploration of the joy and the laughter and the happiness that all of those groups, that all of us experience in our life. So Ash and I entered into writing knowing that we wanted to make people laugh, that we wanted to expose the joy and the love within every cultural group that we could write about. But after that spring of 2020 and seeing all those book lists, we knew that's why we were put out into the world and what we were supposed to do, because fiction is a great avenue for learning, and humor brings people together. Laughter makes people happy, and you can learn just as much through humor as you can through pain. So that's really been our mission in our writing. That was sort of happenstance with the first book, but then really became true of this book, Never Meant to Meet You, and then our third one that's coming out in summer 2023. So that was our blessing of launching in COVID.
And, exploring through pain. Who needs those wrinkles? So we decided to go for laughter. It's much more fun to write that way, too, for us.
Better wrinkles with a laugh line.
For sure.
I did watch an interview of you all on YouTube, and you did mention that the movie rights for Tiny Imperfections had been optioned. And now I understand Never Meant to Meet You has also been optioned. Is that correct?
Well, what's out there? It's out there.
Okay, great.
The movie rights are kind of the icing on the cake for us. Whatever allows us to keep writing together is what we want to pursue. But yes, with Tiny Imperfections, even before it hit the sales shelves, we were approached by Netflix and also Regina King's production company. And we thought, well, we have made it. They what? They like us. They really like us. Got to go to Hollywood and be courted by a number of agencies, and then COVID. So we got picked up really quickly, and we got dropped really quickly.
But there is, we are super excited. We still do have a new set of agents in Hollywood that are shopping around the second book, and there's already interest for TV and film for our third book. So we don't pin a lot on that because interest is a very broad term. So we just keep writing our books and telling our stories and hope that someone will see the worthiness of it to be on screen.
I had also understood that there might be a sequel to Tiny Imperfections, but how does the marketing of the second and third book maybe alter the course for where you go next with your writing?
Well, you do have to do well.
Absolutely.
You write one book and then say, how about a second one? And they're like, well, your first one, So we have tabled sort of the sequel to Tiny Imperfections. We're hoping to bring that family back because it was our first baby, sort of, and we did fall in love with that family, and we feel like they have a lot more to say to the world. So I'm hoping that comes down the line.
Well, and I would just add, it's been really great because Never Meant to Meet You has really taken off in its first couple of weeks. And with that, people who have devoured that book quickly have now gone back and tried to see what else we write. And now they are picking up and reading Tiny Imperfections. So it's kind of floating back up to the top, which was our greatest hope, is that the number 2 and number 3 would help bring the story that launched in COVID back into the light. And so far, so good.
Having read Never Meant to Meet You, which, by the way, Vanna White up here can certainly show that these books are not only here on the table, but available outside for purchase and signing, perhaps, too, if we can talk you into that. But Never Meant to Meet You, the story of a black woman and a Jewish woman becoming friends, but they didn't expect to become friends, certainly back to just the perspectives that you bring to your work. And again, the humor that you use in them, but also while exploring some very difficult subjects that otherwise, as you said, we don't always treat with humor. The book is written, I can tell you, from Margette, telling the story from the first person. So what we are hearing in many cases are her incorrect assumptions about her Jewish neighbor. One of the quotes that struck me was that Margette says of Noah in passing, "She never struck me as a woman I'd be interested in getting to know. Her story is obvious from 20 feet away and without having to scratch an inch below the surface. Women like Noah Abrams roll through life getting everything they want." And yet these two women become friends. So talk a little bit about what brought you to write those beautiful words and lead us from what we might think is a stereotype of that person next door that we just choose not to meet and becoming this beautiful friendship.
Well, I think those first glimpses of anybody, we sort of admonish people that are judgy, but we're all doing it. And I think that avoidance comes from fear of the unknown. I just don't know anybody that looks like that. These are the things that I've maybe experienced before with someone that looks like that, and I'm just going to go off of what I've known in the past. But circumstances bring them together, an unavoidable happenstance in their neighborhood, and they're thrust together and come to realize just how similar they are. And I think it's a story of humanity first, where we may see things through the lens of our race, our religion, our class, our privilege. In the end, there are things that tie us together because we are simply human, and that is where Margette and Noah connect the most.
And I would also add that Asha and I might have eventually written this story, but this story really came to be because, again, it was COVID, and we were looking to write a second book, but like all of us, our lives got very small. So usually when you're writing fiction and you're creating stories and characters, you're taking in all the input from the outside world. Well, we all didn't have an outside world during COVID.
I had Allie.
I had Asha. So it's really shocking that we wrote a book about a Black Baptist kindergarten teacher and a white Jewish woman. But it was our opportunity to look a little bit at ourselves. It's not autobiographical by any means, but a look a little bit at ourselves, but also we wanted to explore, because we were all feeling it, the topic of grief. And because that's something else that was very common of the time. There were those that was, the really awful, typical grief of losing someone, but we all lost our routines. We all lost a feeling of community. Some people lost jobs. So the lens of grief got very wide during COVID. And so that was something that was really curious to me. Really curious, like, how do you heal from this type of grief? None of us had experienced it. It was new for all of us. And then because of Asha and I, and we love to laugh, really that question of, will there ever be a time where this is funny? Are we ever going to be able to laugh? Can you ever laugh at grief? So that was something I really wanted to explore when we started this book. Asha, not so much.
Yeah, I thought, grief is when someone dies, or, am I grieving anything? And I had to look deeper through these characters. That's kind of the fun of writing fiction, deciding where they're coming from and associating it back to myself. And yes, I didn't get to go to my son's high school graduation or see him to prom. I didn't get to go to my eldest son's graduation, which, by the way, was being held at Yankee Stadium. He's an NYU graduate. And I had the dress of all dresses. And I was going to be a star going into that stadium. And I didn't get that. Those were moments that caused grief for me. I needed a broader perspective of what it was. And I needed to get my feelings out on paper. And Marjette and Noah helped me do that.
In the actual writing process, when you're both co-authoring, I'm sure things go back and forth over the computer at the speed of light very quickly. Did you have any major disagreements in character development, and if so, how did you resolve them?
You're so gracious to think that we do things quickly.
or presumptuous to think that we disagreed on anything.
No, that part's true.
Because we talk a lot about everything that has nothing to do with writing before we actually write.
Like, Allie, oh my goodness, my husband is driving me crazy. Or my kid brought home a really bad grade again. My dog just went on the rug. I mean, we just shared life through such an isolating time, and it became fodder for our writing. And we have had disagreements. Allie and I don't divide our writing between, you write the white people, I'll write the black people. If there's somebody else in there, we'll figure it out. It isn't like that. We talk about what we want to write. We have to agree on every word, every piece of punctuation, every sentence, because what's in these books represents each of us. We're also individual women with different worldviews, different points of view, and despite being very similar in the way we grew up, the values that we have, how we raise our children, how we run our families, we did see things differently on occasion. And when we came upon those moments, we allowed each other the grace of space to sit with what we maybe didn't know, what I didn't know about Judaism, what Allie didn't know about the black experience. It didn't need to be a fight. It needed to be teaching moments between the two of us. And we still disagree. The other day we took 20 minutes trying to figure out the right term to use between a baptism and a christening, and neither one of us is Catholic, We had to do research, we had to call friends, And in the end, we go through the process until we agree.
I do want to tell one specific story because, yes, we bring different perspectives as women, and we have to come to agreement. But also, I have two daughters. Asha has two sons. And in Tiny Imperfections, there's a daughter. And that flowed pretty seamlessly because I have daughters. Asha's a woman, has a sister, has nieces, boom, we went. But in Never Meant to Meet You, there is a high school son. So I'm the big picture person. I have the bizarre brain that sees the beginning, the middle, the end. I write it out really ugly for a couple chapters. I send it off to Asha with an insane amount of notes, and she goes to town on the emotional depth of the characters. Well, I was writing the dialogue for the teenage son for our first draft, and I proudly sent it off to Asha.
Oh, my goodness. I looked at what she sent. It was about 90 pages, and I think I sent 30 pages back to her. I had to cut the other ones. I said, Allie, who is this teenage boy you have talking and talking and talking and talking? I have 2 teenagers in my basement, and I haven't seen them in 2 weeks. I haven't heard this many words from them their entire lives. Who explains this much when you're a teenage boy? You put a few grunts in, you ask what's for dinner, you're done. So there were some learning curves about other things besides race and class and religion.
Yeah, having a teenage son, I would agree with those edits. Other real-life experiences that you used, I understand that the trip to the field trip to the zoo was from a personal experience of yours, Asha.
Oh, my goodness. Well, it's a magical thing to be invited into a family when you're a teacher. You don't just work with the children that are in your classroom. You're working with their parents, their siblings, their grandparents. Aunts and uncles come and volunteer. And we've been part of thousands of families. And it is such a gift. I've never met a rich teacher, and I'm not a rich teacher. But the richness comes in the hugs that you get from the kids and the experience of growing near a being that is very innocent in how they view the world and very honest. I cannot tell you how many times I had a student ask me, Teacher Asha, why is your bottom so big? Well, because I like to eat and I don't want to exercise. Now, we are on letter T. Let's get back to business of the classroom. But yes, going to the zoo can be out in public at all with a class full of children. They point a lot, you know. Look at that guy's bald head, Teacher Asha. Where is his hair? And they'll say it out loud. And from what I learned is that curiosity is an innocent thing. You can tell when it comes from good intentions. It's okay to come up to somebody like me and say, hey, tell me something about who you are, what you're about. Kids will do that, and it isn't until they learn, ooh, it can be scary or someone's going to slap my hand for saying it, that they stop. We like to say at the school where we work together, dare to be wrong, dare to make mistakes. And at some point, we don't allow that kind of grace with adults anymore. And it's a shame that we don't, because we hate to be judged on one moment, one bad moment, one ill-phrased question, when there's so many beautiful moments in your life. So yeah, you got to read the zoo.
Oh my God.
The zoo scene in the book is just, that's worth the book alone.
Well, and I would just add that in addition to our mission to bring humor into storytelling, is that we hope that people enjoy our books and enjoy our characters, but what we want more than that is that the adults that read our book will say, okay, I'm willing to put myself out there with someone who may not seem like me on the outside, and be curious about them, because we are living in a culture right now where you say or do the wrong thing, you get judged at your very worst moment rather than all your best moments. And so then people are retreating. So the conversation out there is we need to reach out. We need to be, enjoy each other's differences and perspectives. But on the flip side, if something goes awry, we get a hand slapped and people retreat. And so we really want to encourage people that put yourself out there. And if you don't get the reaction that you want, That's not about you. You are putting a best intention out there. That might be something about that person as a person, or maybe just in that moment. We all have bad moments. But keep trying, keep doing it, and that's an underlying piece of our writing that we really hope others take away from the story as a whole.
I want to allow some time for questions. I know we're one microphone short, so if the audience had any questions, I can repeat them into the microphone, or it looks like Lorna's on the go with one as well.
Have a live one here. Uh-oh, Dana, I spoke too soon.
Okay, thanks. So I read Tiny Imperfections and laughed the whole way through and loved it. And I just started your second book, and again, lots and lots of smiles and giggles and insight. The dialogue is so great. So, Asha, are you the dialogtician, or how does that work? It's just so real and so evocative and wonderful.
So I'm going to answer this one because I truly believe, so both Asha and I, collectively, we have 40 years of experience working in schools as teachers, as administrator, and I would challenge the world to find anyone who is a greater observer and expert on humanity than teachers and educators, because our job is people. Our job is to meet them where they are. Our job is to usher them through their best moments and their worst moments. And when I say people, I truly mean the children and the parents and the caregivers and the grandparents. And so the dialogue is really a melding of thousands and thousands and thousands of conversations that we've had with every type of person in the world. So it's interesting because a lot of authors do struggle with dialogue. Neither of us struggle with it at all because we've been listening for 40 years to 5-year-olds and 85-year-olds. So we have a blast with that part, and we've also laughed at a lot of dialogue through all that experience at schools. So of everything that we do, the dialogue comes easiest. The romance and the, Asha's been married a really long time, like a really long time. I've been married long time-ish. So we're like, oh, what's it like again when you meet someone for the first time?
First kiss, oh my God.
Right.
I have to write about that.
Oh yeah, remember you don't have sweats on when you have your first kiss. So it's funny, those like more intimate moments when the boy meets girl, that's where we actually struggle, and we crack up when we're struggling. I'm usually eating tortilla chips, and Asha's like brushing off the crumbs, and we're trying to figure it out. But the dialogue's the part that we sort of really come to naturally, I think.
We read it out loud many times. We read our manuscript out loud, and I fancy myself, like, in my next life, I'm going to be a famous actress. So I love to pace and get into the characters. Allie and I have our own lanes where she is really a great story weaver, and I do a lot of the dialogue and emotion, but we collaborate on all of it,
Thanks, John. Just curious, when in your second book, when you were diving into different cultures, different perspectives, how did that allow you to do some self-reflection on really who you are as a person and an author?
Well, I got to learn how much I don't know about Judaism, and I joined all sorts of Jewish councils online and started to follow the history a lot more. It made me, I'm a teacher. I teach kids to be lifelong learners, and I am one myself. So it sparked a whole nother level of curiosity in me. There's sort of this idea that minority groups do not really need to learn about majority groups because we have to live among them, and we're living that life anyway. And I would push back and say there is room to learn forever in your life. And so I would have been like Margette. There's a scene where she comes in during a moment where they're sitting Shiva, and there are coverings over the mirrors, and she goes to move one aside thinking, who left this here? I would have done that. So she encouraged me, our character encouraged me to learn more outside of my own self.
And I would say the best compliment I got from Asha as we started book 2 was, ooh, you're getting better at being black. I was like, thank you very much.
Yeah, but her black card is still in the mail. She's not there yet.
But Nora has Asha's been revoked because I'm white.
That's true. Although it's been tried a few times.
Yes, it has. You know, Asha and I do say, as much as this is not the sort of right thing to say right now, stereotypes do exist for a reason. There's always a little basis of truth. And when we started down this path, and we didn't know what to write about because it was COVID, our literary agent, who is the most incredible woman, but she should be in a movie. She's born and raised in Manhattan. She's Jewish. She talks faster than anyone can possibly listen. And she is so sure to tell you everything that's wrong that we have to ask her, oh my God, give us a little something that's right. But she loves us more than anything. She's fiercely defensive of us. It's fabulous. But at the time, my oldest daughter was starting to study for her bat mitzvah, and we were figuring out, is that something she really wants to do? We were looking at a book. Should we kind of write about ourselves? I was resistant to that at first, and Liza was the one that basically, in her very fast tone, told me to get over myself and look at my Jewishness. So I don't know if I really would have if she hadn't just kicked me in the butt. But that's what a literary agent is supposed to do. And lo and behold, as she reminds us often, now we have a great second book.
Any other questions from the audience? Well, as Rick starts to make his way up here, I'm going to end with one because it's near and dear to my heart, which is food. And food plays a very large role in your second book. And I was delighted to see a couple of recipes there. I'm not going to give away the ending, but there's some food options in there. The characters are intertwined with food. One is attending Weight Watchers, so there's that juxtaposition of reality. Tell us why you chose to write about food so often in the book.
Well, there are some necessities that we have as human beings. Food, water, shelter, and I would add love in there, but science isn't quite backing me up yet. But what human on this planet doesn't have to eat? We are the one species that cooks and shares our food with each other. And there's a reason for that. It brings us so close together. If I'm in my kitchen frying chicken, I bet you the neighbors are going to come knocking because you can smell it down the street. And that is life-affirming for me. It is the love language that I speak. And you can always get your kids to come home when you cook a good meal. I love to have my home and my hearth be the center of gathering. And the people that are usually around my table look different, every single one of us. And that makes my heart swell.
Can I end on a funny story about food in our... So I'm not a good cook, but I'm a great eater, and particularly of Asha's food. But I was feeling a little left out that at the end, Asha was going to have her fried chicken recipe. So I felt like, well, I have to have a recipe too, and I couldn't really put in a recipe for making spaghetti. So there's a scene in the book around sweet potato pie. So I said, I'm going to put in a recipe of sweet potato pie. And to be completely transparent, I've never made a sweet potato pie, but I'm a phenomenal researcher. So I did all this research and, looking at reviews of all these recipes online. So on the back of the book, it says there's Asha's fried chicken and Allie's sweet potato pie. And day 2 that the book was out, we got an email from a reader that said, loved your book so much, compliments, so wonderful. And she said, but I love making recipes in the back of books. And I really thought, like, whoever makes those recipes? But apparently they do. She said, but I went to make the pie, and you forgot to write in how much flour. It's like, that is pretty on course for me. And then Asha told me how much flour should have been in it. So yes, we have two recipes in the back. Asha's, that it's perfection, and mine, that's a pie without the flour.
It's ready for your second edition when you're all rich and famous. So thank you very much, ladies.
Thank you, Asha. Thank you, Allie, for making the trek to Yakima, sharing your stories. I think there'll be a few books sold this afternoon outside the door, and great entertainment. I'm looking forward to reading. And thank you, Jennifer, for moderating. Have you ever done this before? Oh, yeah. Anyway, great job. Thank you very much. I'd just like to let the speakers know that we will make a contribution to the Rotary Polio Plus campaign to help eradicate polio throughout the world as well as in the United States. And we have a couple programs ahead. What's new in economic development in the workforce, October 27th. That'll be here at the Convention Center. And then November 3rd, my golly, we're going to get a White Pass ski area program, so snow is going to fall before we know it, I guess. And that's Ricky Cooper and Kevin McCarthy. And then after that, Peggy Ludwig, formerly from Yakima, is going to talk about her book, I think, about her father serving in the armed forces, and that's on our Veterans Day program here at the Convention Center. Couple things. Liz McGree, if you know her, she's had, I think, shoulder surgery. So if you didn't know that, why don't you give her a call, say hello to her and wish her well. And then on the tables, I think on each table, there is something about the Rotary auction. It's a registration form. It's less than a month away. So we want to be sure that we have as many people there as we can hold, which is quite a few. So somebody at the table, pick up the registration card just so everybody knows it's there. If you haven't filled one out, I hope you will, or take it home and do it there. But you're also welcome to sign up for a table and then fill it yourself. So auction is coming. Silent auction items are welcome. If you think of something that could be donated to the silent auction, we will definitely take it. So keep those two things in mind. Sign up for the auction, silent auction items. It's going to be a great event, and believe me, and it's going to be game on. We are back. So thank you for attending, and have a great day. Books are out in the foyer area for your perusal.